Liberalist. They did not.
No what? Did
They
you
are
receive
not.
the email last week where they asked you to feed into the Liberal list the last bingo sheets?
Gee, thanks a lot. We have like
No,
a
no.
huge box of it. We don't have any people to do that, and it's a
Not only
volunteer
that, we
thing.
send them to Ottawa. That's what they asked us to do.
What are negotiations?
So we knew that.
You know the sheets that our scrutineers have at the tables when they, or our people, the volunteers,
Just a
on
record of
election
who has
day,
voted.
who cross out who has voted and they pick it down.
So
But we send
why
it
did
to
the
Ottawa.
party fall down on that? And are they going to fix it? Would you fix it?
It has to be fixed. If we're asking people to collect data for us to input and then we don't do it, somebody has to
I would think
be
one of the
called
things
to task on
that
that.
that a president of a party would want to fix if you want
Yes.
to engage the bottom people
Yeah.
is access to Liberalist. Right now, it's treated like it's well, I like this guy, so I'll let him do it. But I'm not going to let her do it because I don't know her or she
I don't trust her.
No, she
Yeah.
didn't come and do anything for me, and it doesn't know, so she.
I disagree. I disagree. And may I, if I may, I'll never mind.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead. Liberalist is fundamental.
As a, as a level 3 user of Liberalist, I have extensive access to information. I can create accounts. I personally, even during the election campaign, was very careful about who I created accounts for, level 1 and level 2 accounts, because you have access to very personal information about not only names, but birth dates, addresses, things that I think need to be safeguarded. And it's very difficult to safeguard that kind of information. I mean, obviously, on every constituency level, you would need somebody, even multiple people, who would have access to that
Yeah.
kind of information.
And I would say that board members of DDA have to have access to the list.
Depends on how your board is
Well, you
organized.
define the levels. You can define the levels of access. But board members, if they're elected by membership, they should be entrusted with that.
I would personally, as a member, feel uncomfortable if, just some director who has never shown up to a meeting and,
Sorry.
Thank you
I
so
go to
much.
the meeting.
Thank you for coming.
All the way to Calgary.
Well, it's my
Hopefully you get
pleasure.
a chance to see our oil sands soon. It's a great attraction. Take care.
Thank you. I probably will fly over some tomorrow
That's right.
on the way to Edmonton.
my point is that you want to show trust in members and engage them, and I think there are other meaningful ways to do that.
Well, you see, I haven't.
Oh, sorry, no, what do you?
I thought about something that could be done with the Victory Fund, okay, that maybe it's an idea, that it could be workable or not. But through Victory Fund, and to actually create an idea for members that there's a return on their investment to Victory Fund members, provide them with email addresses that are specific to Victory Fund members, that would end, X, Y, and Z at victoryfund.ca. Not liberal.ca, but victoryfund.ca. And that would create also a community of members that could interact and could exchange and could create activities and send them, I don't know, a pen or a keychain or something that would give them some sort of ownership of being members of this club, of this fund. We have to create that sense of belonging that people need to set access to all the information. I have a certain.
Oh, I wasn't suggesting that. I just thought
But there
it's
are
very hard from
levels.
an EDA point of view to get access.
Well, that's.
Okay, so the president may or may not be able to get access, may or may not be computer literate, may not want access. But then how do you get somebody else? And then you can't send your emails to your own.
Well, would you agree that at least all the executive members have access to reports? The ones who are elected, to executive positions in the EDA. That could be the way to resolve that problem.
I don't think access is as important. Like in the case of our ranking, to me it's more important that there's one person who knows what they're doing.
Yes.
Instead of having 5 people who have access to it. We have a lot of people who have access to it who have no clue what they're doing.
Well, okay, but more than one person has to know how to use it.
Yeah,
too.
I understand, but for us, we're starting from 0. So
Okay.
every one is 100% improvement.
It's very good already, yes. But I would agree that, in any riding, you should have at least 2 people who are very proficient with liberalism and can teach other volunteers when an election comes along. Because, when you have your volunteers in your local during elections, you need to give them something to do. And Liberalist now gets people interested because they see results, they can issue lists, they can print something, it's there. And we have to be able to teach them how to use it. But Liberal List is perhaps the best tool that as a party we invested in and we haven't used it properly. And this by everybody. Ian McKay is the first person to admit this. That we haven't yet used it to the fullest extent of what it can offer us. It can be so good as a tool for voter engagement, for outreach, for mass mailings. We can do mass mailings through Liberal List like this. It's easy to do, but we have to use it properly. But it costs a lot less money than if you do it the traditional way. So if you actually use Liberal List to its full extent, you will save money. It will help you save money. And perhaps do it more often than you're actually doing it now. This contact with members. Think you have a question, sir?
Just to follow up there, in terms of representation, some people suggested that a way to get to the national level for that to happen is to move your way up and have non-profit organizations, to have municipal governments, to have political parties practice some form of proportional representation in order for people to become familiar with the concept.
Preferential.
To be accepted at the curriculum level and then more likely to.
Are we talking preferential or proportional?
Either one. Not implying, because it's a split, right? But I'm wondering specifically with the Liberal Party. There's a Liberal Party currently holding kind of
The preferential, yes, we're holding it on leaderships.
leadership, okay?
Leadership, it's already that way.
Are you allowed, how many people are allowed to rank? Are you allowed to rank all of them? Or
Well, in 2006, we ranked them all, the 8 or 9 or whatever number who were running. We actually ranked them all.
Okay, and there's a lot of member
And it wasn't that complicated because they had created a computer software system that, you just fed in the numbers and the computer itself calculated whoever had the 50% plus 1 for that specific riding. So that this was to calculate the number of delegates that were going to go to the convention for that person, for that candidate.
Yeah.
For example, you had 22 delegates that you could name for your riding. You would have 4 that would go for Mr. Kennedy, 2 for Mr. Dion, 5 for Margaret Hall Finlay. They would split it out. The computer would split it out. Because that vote you already knew. The first round of voting at a convention, you knew then what the result was going to be.
Apart from later, if the party practices in
No,
any way.
we've never practiced it before.
So that's an opening. That they should explore ways of practicing it.
I actually thought the executive election that we're going to have in January was one of preferential, but it isn't. It's first past the post.
In my ignorance, but how many candidates are running?
4. Sheila Copps, Ron Hartling, Mike Crowley, and myself.
Do
Women,
people
2
have to
men.
be at the convention to vote?
Yes, you have to be a delegate. We don't have direct voting yet by members. Yes. And 3 Ontarians, 1 Quebecer.
Actually, Alexandra, I understand that there's a gentleman from Lethbridge who's also running for president, Charles Ward. He just put his papers in this week.
Okay?
So,
He's the first Western, and I hadn't heard anything,
No.
nor anyone actually.
His name's not on the LBC website.
That's just the
yeah, from
Because
what he
he's from the
said,
West.
he just put his papers in.
No, but if he's
Monday
just
or
put the
Tuesday.
papers in.
So it's brand new. He's from Lethbridge, but it's brand new.
Okay.
He hadn't been in before, so.
So 3
You've
men,
got a
2
meeting with
women.
him tomorrow night?
Yes.
He's having a meeting tomorrow night.
Tell me, if partly goes ahead with these additional seats to the provinces, is that going to create a realignment of ridings?
I don't know. Well, a lot of the ridings that are going to be created in Ontario are around the GTA, okay? If I understand correctly, because they are going to do it to alleviate the very big ridings that they have around Toronto right now.
But that changes the map.
They will change it. They will reduce the ride, so there will be more ridings around the Greater Toronto area. I think it could play to our advantage. I'm not sure that Harper has. Hmm?
Well, how do you see it?
Because that's usually very fertile liberal ground. Okay.
Yes.
Now, because I believe, unfortunately, that Canadians vote with leaders, not necessarily with policies, It all depends on what kind of leader we're going to have next time around. And what the leader we have will have to offer these new ridings. And how he will speak to these new ridings. We have a chance because it is fertile liberal ground, and a lot of the people who voted Conservative last election are liberals. They were just so scared of the NDP wave coming from Quebec that they decided to vote safely and voted Conservative. Made a huge mistake, but that's besides the point. but I think it would. Now Alberta is gaining, I think now 4 instead of 6. No, it was 6, but I think it's down to 4 because they gave 3 to Quebec.
No, 6.
Then it was 8.
6 to BC, 6 to Quebec.
Okay, because then it was 8 for each, and now it's down to 6. Okay.
Probably get 2 in Canada.
The 3 we're getting in Quebec are going to be around Montreal, among them my riding. That's one of the I have one of the largest ridings too in the country. So it's going to be cut. Hopefully all the former bloc part, I hope they take it away. Leave me the liberals. That'll be fine. But it all depends on who our liberals going to, our leader is going to be. I really unfortunately believe so. Canadians aren't prepared yet to judge a party for its team, whoever they're putting out there as candidates. I mean, if you looked at the 3 major parties last election and the quality, caliber of candidates we put out there compared to both the NDP, as we saw, and the Conservatives, there was no match. No match. I mean, the amount of talent just in the 308 Liberal candidates was phenomenal.
But the delivery of any message was not. So you can't
Well, it
say
wasn't
that you
because it
can't
didn't
blame
go
the
there.
population for voting for the leader because they didn't necessarily. And I really think it's a big cop-out that the Liberals use to say things like the wave coming from Quebec of NDP. That was nonsense. Nobody expected that.
Exactly.
To suggest in the end that Toronto people voted Conservative because of the Quebec
That's
wave.
what they say.
Who says that?
Toronto's
Well, I don't think Toronto's
Toronto.
think that.
That's why
Toronto's
they
don't
believe everything on
even, people
Facebook.
from Toronto don't even know what Quebec's doing.
They did because of the La Presse
Anyway,
poll that came out the week before.
We had no platform, no message.
We
So
had
we
a
can't-
very good platform. We didn't have messaging.
Okay.
That I agree.
We had no
yes.
platform in front of the Canadian population. I don't
But
care.
we don't know how to market our platforms.
That's
I
right.
agree.
And that
Totally
is,
agree.
as far as I can see, part of the job of the
The
party
executive,
hierarchy
yes.
to get rid of the people who think they know because they happen to be there when Trudeau got elected on Trudeau's merits, not on their merits, that they made Trudeau. And
You
now
know,
they'll make the next guy. But they don't. We do not have another savior.
I
We have
put
to
it out
save
as a
ourselves.
joke today, but I don't think it's a joke. I think we need an outside good PR firm who actually gets how to communicate with Canadians. And I was giving the example of the Ally commercials. I'm sure everybody has seen. You know, the bad, mean banker who's taking away the lollipop or the ice cream
Oh,
from
yeah.
the little kids in the circle. Those are very simple commercials. Very simple. I mean, they're not costly. It doesn't cost
This
money.
man on television.
But he, put Harper doing that. Can you imagine how that kind of an image is? Wow, people would get it. And everybody knows what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the Allied commercials.
I want to build on that. My biggest concern is that I haven't been to the early part of the discussion, but I've been following the circuit. And it seems like they're just rehashing old ideas and trying to, look at what the Conservatives did to succeed or what the NDP did to succeed and adapt their sort of best practices. At least that's what the discussion I'm having. And what's our big idea of revolutionary politics in Canada? I don't hear
That
big
doesn't come
ideas.
from the executive.
Well, I think that isn't
It
there a
comes from the
space-
members.
Yeah, isn't there a space for
Yes, it will come from
the
but
leadership to?
But that's why I started
to
by
try to
saying I don't think that as a candidate for the presidency, I should present a platform. I should be the vehicle through which the members present a platform to the party or create a platform for the party. The executive should be that vehicle to receive the ideas from party membership, to put them together and actually ferment a platform that will be the result of every member of the Liberal Party who participated in that. Of course, a lot are going to be thrown to the garbage because they don't make any sense. That's what the executive has as a role, and the policy chair, and all the people who have been elected to do this, to judge, to measure, to ponder what all these suggestions from the membership are doing.
I'll be honest, that may be something that appeals to a more sophisticated base in Ontario or Quebec, but for Alberta, at least the people that I'm dealing with at the local level, we're a very small group here. What we want to see, or what I would like to see, is a clear vision of how you're going to make this party a winning party in the West, and give us some clear, actionable items. I'd rather follow.
I'll give you one example of.
Plan that is not proven.
I'll give you an example of one of the things we found out this summer. We members, okay, and I'm not talking because I'm an ex-candidate. We members of the party who got together in Quebec and started looking at what we have and what we don't have. The Liberal Party of Canada doesn't have a mission statement. Do you understand that we don't have a mission statement?
I was aware of that.
It shows.
But it shows.
Yes.
So what have we been doing at this level of membership in Quebec? We've been drawing a mission statement. A 3-point mission statement. It doesn't have to be a novel. But something that is clear to tell a fellow citizen when we knock on the door, this is why I'm a Liberal, this is why I think you should be a Liberal. Okay? This is what we've been doing to propose to the party. Let's start by defining who we are. Before the vision, we have to define who we are. And the vision will come when people adhere to who we are and tell us, okay, now that we know who we are, how do we see the future of our country? Michael Ignatieff started defining that vision with Canada 150, which in my opinion, we failed miserably to take to the level where it should go in defining a vision for the country. We started really well with this beautiful conference where we had experts and people that weren't necessarily Liberals, but giving us an idea of where Canada should be in 2017. And after that, we heard nothing else.
So who fell down there?
I don't know. I don't want to blame anyone. I don't want to point fingers. But the fact remains that from Canada 150 to the platform we put in front of Canadians in 2011, there was no link. Do you agree with me that you didn't see the transfer of what we heard at Canada 150 to the platform we presented to Canadians in this election? And yet, there was a beginning of a vision there. I mean, the 5 themes that we worked around, Canada in the world and the sustainability of our economy, it was there. But it went up in the air.
Well, that supports Don's comment earlier that we haven't been good at communicating.
Or actually even using what we've done. Which comes back to what I said in the beginning about the Change Commission and the Red Ribbon Commission and this. I mean, all this has been done. We have it. We don't know how to communicate and we don't follow through.
And further to that, what really is a lack of communication, a lack of follow through, we in the West are interpreting as like it's creating or reinforcing already existing feelings of Western alienation. Mm-hmm. Whereas we think that they must be talking to the party in Ontario, they must be talking to the party in Atlantic Canada, but they're not. And we don't know that because none of us are talking.
And I was in Halifax for the general meeting of the Liberals in Halifax on the 21st and 22nd of October. And at one point, I'm listening to what's being said in the room. I close my eyes, and literally, with my eyes closed, I turn to my fellow people at the table and said, okay, if I'm thinking French, I'm hearing exactly the same thing in Quebec. It's no different. And here, the same thing. If I close my eyes and I put myself in a French environment, I'm hearing exactly what I hear in Quebec. So I think this alienation is not a Western alienation, it's a membership alienation.
I agree.
But it's one Harper plays on well, because he plays on it as he takes the government of Canada, equates it with Liberals who don't tell you what they're going to do or why they're doing it.
And wedges.
Makes that the government, and then says, vote for me, I'll fix that.
But why wouldn't you do that if you could win on that platform?
I'm not saying that I would. I'm just suggesting that first of all, the whole problem of Harper himself is a Liberal-caused problem. Okay, we caused it by putting emphasis on the leader, not on representation, and ourselves. by glorifying the Prime Minister, by taking down the pictures of the Queen and saying, Mr. Trudeau and whoever the hell the immigration minister was at the time, welcome you to Canada, in all the docks and airports, which was not what was there the day before, Mr. Trudeau. And we glorified the executive of the government. And now we are suffering for it because,
I think we, honestly, and in all honesty, I think we try to glorify the Canadianness of the state because we are a constitutional
that's the
monarchy.
excuse. That's a good
I don't
excuse.
think it's the excuse.
I think it's a very good excuse because the excuse is to say, oh, I'm saying it's me because you don't want to think it's somebody from England. That's nonsense. I shouldn't have been saying
Moroni
this.
went ahead with it
I
and
should
he
not
loved
have-
it.
Of course he did, because it glorifies the person in charge now and allows them a big edge.
You see, I'm a monarchist, okay, and I'm a profound monarchist.
As am I. And
Okay.
it's strange that
And
we're
I'm
from the same province.
And I'm from Portugal, okay? Originally born and bred until I was 15. So I don't come from monarchist country, but I'm a born and bred monarchist. I absolutely have a great devotion for our Queen. I do understand why we should not have portraits of the Queen all over our embassies. For most new Canadians, she has no link. A lot of Canadians who have been born actually in Canada and raised in Canada lately, they have no idea who the Queen is, except that they see her in the $20 bills.
Yeah.
But she's far away, there's no connection.
Yeah, that,
And so having the Governor General, then that means our representative abroad in our embassies, perhaps. That would be the fairer thing because he is a representative of the Queen here, or she. Maybe the photo of the Governor General. And it is a solid position that doesn't change every 2.5 years or 3 years because of elections. Maybe we should put the Governor General. That is debatable. But the Queen itself, I understand why we shouldn't. She isn't Canadian. For Canadians, she isn't Canadian. They don't see her as Canadian. And I'm not debating at all the fact that we are a constitutional monarchy. On the contrary. But
no,
I don't think
wasn't, I'm not
people-
gonna, I didn't want to get into that part. What I was saying was that what was Mulroney, or not Mulroney,
No,
Archer,
Trudeau, yeah.
same difference, is basically following the 60s and 70s liberal dance of how to get in power and stay in power.
And do you think that by now
we did it.
reverting that and putting the photo of the monarch
No, I'm just
in all the
suggesting,
embassies?
no, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm telling you
Okay.
that if you want to know what Harper's next move is, go back and look at our last moves. When we were when liberals were successful, their moves were the same thing. They did the same thing. They glorified the head
PMO,
office.
yes. We
They
put a lot
used little shots. They amalgamated power in. They used sound bites that were not. They weren't as effective, maybe, but they were effective, and so on. So we should either go back to that and accept the fact that we're going to live with it, but we should stop looking for a savior. We should stop going through as this constant iteration of, we should change, but not changing because we keep the same people in charge.
Well, which is one of the reasons why I'm running, because I don't think I'm part of the same people.
Okay.
But, and I hope I show that. But yes, Michelle has a question.
Well, I was just going to say, I hope that Harper's NEP fails as bad as
Yes.
But that is policy exactly.
Yeah.
And that is beyond the scope of what the presidency would be. I think what I bring to the presidency is the fact that I've always worked with my communities. And that's the only way I know how to work. I've never come to, even as an MP, and I think the fact that my staff has remained my former staff, so keen on me being re-elected so they could come back and work for me. However, they all have jobs and good jobs now. But they told me, all of them, Alexandra, if you ever win an election again, we're back with you. I think it says something about how I see decision-making and
teamwork.
Teamwork and working for the benefit of the community. It's not for me. I'm not here because I'm Alexandra Mendès. Nobody knows me. Except for those who actually follow CPAC religiously, and there aren't that many Canadians who do. But who saw me for 2.5 years on CPAC, nobody knows me. I'm not here for that. I'm here because I think I actually bring something to the table that is different from what we've known in the past.
Do you think the president has a cultural role, like informing the corporate culture of the party?
Yes, absolutely.
What do you think he would do to improve the corporate culture of the party?
Well, first of all, stop the secrets. We are not the CIA. I mean, honest to God.
It's actually, we're more like the Kremlin.
But I've never understood what is this passion for secrecy. I admit that certain things in terms of our finances cannot be divulged widely. Okay. But there is information that can be given to members. You are paying for it. How much do we receive annually from the paper vote subsidy? Do you know? I have no idea. I can't find it if I go to Elections Canada and do all sorts of calculus, and I mean, I may be able to find it. The party should be able to provide us this information. So we know that every year, Elections Canada transfers X amount to the party, the Liberal Party of Canada. At least we know they have X amount of money to function. And we can call the party, the executive, and say, hey, you say you don't have money for this or that, what do you do with all this money here? Explain to us. What are you paying in staff? What are you paying in field workers? What are you paying in the management of the national membership list? Or Liberal list? I mean, we have to pay for this, for the use of this system. So I think that kind of secrecy is not warranted. I don't understand why we have it.
We were looking for more accountability there because there was a lot of problems in Calgary with different ridings, just having some money and never knowing, what happened to it. So that whole concept of accountability, we need that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it is something that isn't difficult to implement. Again, the technology is there, the information is there, just make it available. Yes.
I guess when we talk about vision, how do we message and brand, and that's important. But for me as a local riding president, I'm looking at brass tacks. How do I grow my membership? How do I
fundraise
money? How do I build capacity so my directors and my members can actually run a campaign in 4 years? Because unfortunately, there was no capacity in the last election. I joined the campaign at the local level halfway through, and I've been on successful campaigns. I don't know how they work. And this
was not
good, but there's just no structure. There's no foundation to build on. So it gets me. There's two questions, and one is on strategy. Do you think that having a more sort of egalitarian approach to more horizontal approach, where every riding is offered the same resources, the same
capacity,
opportunities, and they sort of cross support each other or subsidize in some ways each other. Is that the approach to winning the West? Because it's a totally. I'm talking about
the approach for Canada.
Or is it a more competition-based approach? The reason why I ask is that I worked on the Obama campaign and the DNC campaign when Howard Dean announced the 50-state strategy. What people don't know about the 50-state strategy, everyone thinks, oh, he started to fight in Republican areas. He started to fight in Republican areas where there was Democratic support. He basically created a competitive system and said, we will fund you if you can show us performance. It was all performance driven. That meant in a state like Montana, the DNC only focused on 3 districts and the congressional, and 3 areas in the congressional. They didn't care about the areas they were not going to win. So it is picking winners and losers. It's very strategic. It's focusing your resources in areas where you know you have a chance of winning. And I personally felt, I've seen both sides. I've seen the let's subsidize across the board, let's not offend anybody approach, which is what's happening in Alberta. And you get 10% across the board, every riding, maybe give or take 5 on either side, and no one wins. Versus pooling all your resources, pooling all your volunteer capacity, and creating a culture where, you know what, in this election cycle, we know the polls are telling us that these 5 ridings are viable.
Yes.
Let's hammer it out and actually win some sense.
And you do that 6 months before an election.
See, we didn't have any of that.
You don't do that during the 4 years where you are organizing on the ground.
But is that something you would support as a president?
Yes, because I mean, that's the pragmatic approach. And not necessarily about one province versus the other. It's looking at where our strengths have been built and have been established and say, okay, let's focus there.
Makes sense.
And it makes sense because if not, we waste resources too. By trying to spread them too thin, we waste resources. So obviously, and we make that 6 months, we make that judgment or that call 6 months before an election. Again, being in this minority cycle was very difficult to do. Both creating some sort of outreach throughout Canada, throughout the 308 ridings, and on the other hand, being prepared for an election and concentrating on those ridings we thought we would win. And it failed us miserably anyway. So, yes, I agree with you that when the time comes to determine where we're going to invest the largest part of our resources in human marketing, whatever, we have to look at that. We have to definitely look throughout the map where are our hotspots and invest there. But by then, 6 months before an election, we should know. If we have good polling done for us, internal polling, we should know where our strengths are likely to come from.
You don't have to go to Montana to find one of those. We belong to the McLeod riding that goes from Springbank to the U.S. border. And we're having our annual general meeting.
And our candidate runs fifth every time.
Now there's
Behind
a
everybody, even behind the independents.
We're in Menzies riding, and
Okay.
of course he's undoubtedly going to be the winner every time. And
He's
I
popular.
keep thinking, why are we raising money? Why are we doing this? Why are we
Investing so much energy.
traveling to
yeah.
Okotoks or Hibernia for a meeting? Why can't we do what this gentleman is suggesting?
Yeah. But I agree, I mean,
Winnable one.
there are ridings in the Calgary area that I think would have been winnable if we had concentrated more resources here, or Edmonton, or, I mean, in Saskatchewan. I think there are pockets in Saskatchewan where we could have had a chance. Manitoba again. If we spread too thin, we won't make it. That is obvious for me.
And it goes back, that's the question is, 6 months I agree with, within from now 6 months, we have some people here who are suggesting that maybe we should be looking at focusing our efforts even at the building stage, because we know.
Yes, and you know, I was going to
ask.
ask you, do you know about Liberal University? Have you heard about Liberal
Yeah.
University? All of us have.
Nope.
Okay, this Liberal University was put together by Doug Ferguson to empower EDAs on how to run campaigns, okay? And you go on the website and you can find it, liberaluniversity.ca. And it has these blocks of instruction, you know, how to create an executive, run an executive, and how to do outreach and how to do fundraising at the EDA level, okay? Very local EDA. It needs a big refresher course. It's still in the 2007 modules, so it needs a refresher to make it pertinent and to link it to Liberalist, because right now it isn't. It's not even adapted to Liberalist. But it is a good way of empowering our EDAs. For this period from now until 6 months before the next election, May 2015, for us to do outreach, palpable outreach in all the 308 ridings. If you'd like to organize a coffee meeting, for example, in your riding, with the perhaps 24 Liberals that you have in the area, how can we encourage you to do that? Could we, for example, plug you by satellite to one of our MPs to be present at this coffee meeting, to make it, you know, a little more interesting for the members to come and participate and do it? And it's possible to do, and it won't cost a fortune to do. But perhaps by doing that, the second time you will want to do something, you'll get 40 people instead of 20. Because you got somebody interesting, and may not be an MP, could be anyone else in the party that has a certain resonance to members, and speaks to them, or speaks with them. And those are things that I think we need to do for those months and years before an election is called. That's how we'll grow, eventually. And one thing is for certain, I pray to all the gods that if we ever are back in, when we're back in government, we bring back the vote subsidy. This is the democratic thing to do. And we have to ensure that our parties have a base. Not just us, all the parties have a base. And I tell you, the moment the Conservatives stop having their grassroots funding, the paper vote subsidy is coming back real quick.
But they won't stop. And one of the things, I'd like to speak against your concept of concentrating your money on the places you...
Okay, but I'll let that
Okay.
gentleman speak first, yes.
There's surveys done on websites after the election indicating that Harper's divide and conquer strategy managed to alienate enough people that he managed to swing the vote. But it was based on a mere rally of about 6,200 and some odd votes, spread over about 12 writings, right? Not a lot. It sounds more impressive than me. Between now and then, I think Harper has a real good chance of hanging himself because he's so hell-bent on ideology. Every issue that was spared during the election, in some way or not, could very likely go the way of the Liberals and the other opposition parties today. And I don't think it would be that hard for the Canadian public to speak. Look what happened to Brian Mulroney, what happened to him, right? 2 seats. Because all his successor managed to
Because it was a lot to do with the disregard for public opinion that he had.
Yes.
The total disregard, and I think that's what Harper is showing too.
Is that not what he's showing now, a disregard for public opinion? He started off with the postal strike. There's every sign that in 2014 we will not have a renewed health care agreement. Environment, he's below F as far as I'm concerned in the environmental department, right? And in this
To everything, access to information. I mean, the difficulty anyone has to access information in the government. The UNESCO, you know, there's so much polarizing in this government that is eventually going to get Canadians mad, I hope.
So I think the Liberals need to really have a committee or a person, whoever, somebody assigned to watch these policy trends that are happening and work on an ongoing strategy to use this to their full advantage. Don't wait until the election's called. They need to start that now. They know Harper is ideological. They know he could very easily hang himself, just give him enough rope and he'll hang himself along with Vic Taves and the other radicals in this party, right? So they've got a golden opportunity, and I think it falls on the entire party officialdom and all the people that hold some kind of position in the party to buy in, to latch onto this strategy. It's just a matter of time. Unfortunately, they're going to have a lot of work to do after the election if they manage to get back, even as a minority government, to restore some of these things. Wheat board is another one, right? What they're trying to do is dismantle Canada.
I know.
Harper said in about 2004, whatever he said.
When I'm done with it, you
will
won't
not
recognize
Canada. Exactly what he's trying to do.
And who said it before him? Our famous Trudeau. Just watch me.
That was totally different. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, okay. Sorry.
It wasn't. He didn't say it in the sense that it was going to transform Canada. He said it in a very specific situation.
I just want you to recognize what's happening.
No, but
to make excuses is not to recognize.
I'm not making
what's
excuses, but
okay, but to
historically, wasn't it the question of the FLQ? Wasn't it why and the War Measures Act?
It may have been around that
it was about that.
Were done, but he also had he was going to change Canada, and he did. But what I wanted to talk about was this concept of concentrating on all your money on places. Resources. One of the things Harper has done very well is to take the ridings that are guaranteed and do nothing in them. Don't spend 10 cents, don't send any volunteers, don't do anything because they're guaranteed and bring that money.
But we don't have any of those left.
Yeah,
not one.
Well,
the corollary to what she's saying is the concentrating your...
Okay.
But right now, we Liberals, we do not have one single riding in this country that is left.
Okay.
That is sure. Westmount Ville Marie. It is a riding in Montreal. that has never, ever voted anything but Liberal. And we lost on election night until midnight, when finally somebody had to wake Marc Garneau and say, finally you won by 200 and odd votes.
Okay.
Just to give you an example of how there isn't one single riding left in Canada.
Well, there may not have been, but we have been concentrating for years on making sure that we fight our battles in specific places. And what that does to you is today we have 300 ridings and we've got 200 specific places. Okay, so we take 190 of them, and next time we say we have 180 specific places, and then we take 170 of them, and that's exactly what's been happening to us. Neat, down to the loss.
Or we do what the NDP does and put the most incompetent people they could find up on posters and expect for this.
No.
That's what they did.
They didn't pick the most incompetent people they could find. They picked the first people they could find. There's a big difference. They might have picked only. Either way, it's not like there was a selection process other than
precisely.
Yes, okay, you're in.
But I do believe that to rebuild, we have to concentrate on what we think will be our chances of winning seats back.
Okay.
Right now, because none of them is guaranteed. Harper knows that in Alberta, I seriously doubt he's going to have a lot of competition from anyone. Unless he goes the way of Mulroney, and then there's a reform party that comes
Unless
up.
we wake up and do not wait until the last 2 weeks of the election to make comments about what our policy is, like we did last time. We it's a big secret, we're going to show people later on. Because we wouldn't want to say, we want to do A and have somebody else say it too, because then they do it.
They'd steal it from us, yeah.
You know, that stealing from us is, most of it's nonsense because they can't, because it's against their will or their goals. And the other one is, so what? If the people want something to happen, do we really?
And we can spin that so easily.
Yeah.
If somebody steals something like that,
You say, we thank them.
It's so good that even they stole it from
and you
us.
say thank you.
And you just spin it like
But
that, and it's easy to turn it around.
The next thing you want to do
Yeah.
is, if you're running out of money, is you want to address now, issue by issue, with the people who care, and Liberalists would have let us do it if we could have put enough stuff into it and so on. Hit the farmers with the CWB. Hit the airline people with the right to strike.
But the farmers, they are the ones who vote Conservative.
Yes.
And they knew what the Conservatives wanted with the wheat board. That was not a hidden agenda for Harper. He knew, he had made it very clear he wanted to get rid of it.
Did he advertise that in the election? No.
Yes.
No.
It's in their platform.
We advertised.
I hate to hurt your feelings, but people don't read the platform.
I know.
Okay?
I agree.
And no, that's
Not
another
hurting
big
my
failure.
feelings.
Liberals like to educate you. Here's the election coming. Here's 1,400 pages on what we're going to do. Have it read by tomorrow morning because
you have to go promote it. Yes.
You know, it's fascinating. I mean, there are the little bits and pieces of policy here, and there are the bits and pieces of how we can change the party. But in a way, this is not about that. This is about how can you, Alexandra Mendès, in your role, if elected as president, enact those changes. So, I mean, what are some of the things?
Enact the changes that the members want us to enact.
No, but enact changes.
I will not, if I'm elected president, I will not initiate any change that has not been supported and decided by members.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is not democratic, in my opinion.
But fundraising.
Yes.
Hit the farmers with, if you want, help us.
Oh, I
fight the
agree.
wheat board.
I agree.
Send
But
us
that can be
$5.
discussed on a-
The coalition for the gun registry. That would be a simple one for us to hit. We were the only party who stood firm on the gun registry last vote. And I know that you'll have...
I voted for you anyway.
Sorry?
I voted for you anyway.
You voted for him? Yes. But no, I know a lot of Liberals, a lot of my caucus colleagues were having trouble voting to sustain the gun registry. But they did, because the party stood for it. And we were the only party that was recognized by the Great Gun Registry Coalition for having stood firm on this. Why aren't we approaching them, knocking on their doors, and saying, okay, people, you want us to continue defending it? $10 a month for us, it wouldn't be too bad. We don't do it like the Conservatives do. They get their interest groups and they go hit them for money.
Yeah, and that's the party mechanism that
Yeah.
you could be in charge of.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I've been saying.
We absolutely need that done.
The environmental groups, okay? The Green Party is a wonderfully utopic Green Party, but they won't do anything. And they have a great deal of trouble in conciliating some of their policies too. But okay, it's a Green Party in the sense that it's new, it's reasonably new. But we have at least put in front of Canadians a policy that we were ready to implement had we been elected government. And I think it was a grave mistake to actually forget about that policy, because what we needed was a hell of a lot better marketing, not to forget it, not to put it in a shelf. We had the possibility of making it a better offer for Canadians. So what we definitely need is money to put into our marketing skills. We do not know how to market what we have. Now, I'm not even talking about our past. And another thing, and I mentioned this today, one of the big things, because I am a Quebecer, that I have to address at every single meeting I have in Quebec is the ad scam. It hasn't stopped being a persistent, constant, the ad scam. It has.
That's true.
It is. But that's it. It's history, but people don't get it. And I spent, God knows how many minutes that added up in 2 hours during the campaign telling people, okay, aren't we a country who actually believes in rehabilitation, in giving people another chance? Yes, we made a mistake. Yes, we've paid for it. Can we move forward and think also of what we did good for this country? People are very quick to see and continue to remember the NEP and the ad scam. But what about all the other good things we did for Canada?
But we don't defend either one, and we should. The ad scam, what did we do? We put somebody in jail, we had a hearing, we did what we could on it. Did Harper do anything with his scandals? No, he lets them go.
They just accumulate one after the other.
So that's what we have to do.
And Maroney.
Instead, we just say, oh yeah, we're sorry.
And Maroney.
The tar sands, which I call tar sands because I was there in the 80s, and it was tar sands, and it's tar, and it looks like it. There's nothing dirty about it, or there wasn't, there is now. The Syncrude was built by the National Energy Program. Okay, so there would be very minimal tar sands development today, and Alberta's economy would be that much smaller if the NEP had not been there. But instead, we go to the door and NEP, oh yeah, but it's different time now, we're different people. Don't say that.
And actually, it's a known fact that if Mr. Trudeau hadn't insisted on that being an alternative resource for Alberta, we wouldn't have them now, or very little of them. Yeah, I agree.
And Peter Lougheed worked and negotiated with that, and every Albertan loves Peter Lougheed.
Absolutely.
So,
But-
I just interrupt you a bit.
Go ahead.
We have to finish.
We've kept her talking now for almost 2 hours. So I want to thank you for coming and let you have some closing remarks, and then, because Don will keep you here till midnight. He's a very good debater, and he knows his
And a
stuff
very
inside
interested
out.
and committed liberal, and I love that.
And he will be on
He even
Facebook
voted
the
for
whole
us.
time. Yes.
Against the gun registry, yes.
So Alexandra, thank you. And
Well, I
would
thank
just
you
like to
for
make
giving
some
me your
closing
Tuesday evening, and I'll stay with